Hi, and welcome. Today, we're digging into how Adidas is leading the charge in sustainable fashion in 2025 and beyond, and how we can all learn from it. We have our own businesses, small, medium, and large. We can always figure out a couple of things we can do from North Star companies like Adidas. So, this isn't just like a fluffy feel good story. I'm going to try and take time to show you some tangible ways that Adidas is making bold moves with real results. So, whether you run a business or you just want to be a more conscious shopper, I think the next couple of minutes will have plenty of stuff for you to digest. So, let's get into it. So, here's the promise Adidas is reshaping what it means to be a responsible global brand, in my opinion, from how they design their running shoes to how they take them back at the end of life, which is pretty amazing. They've also pledged to dramatically cut their virgin plastics, to roll out circular fashions, which we'll talk about in a second, and partner with organizations that are doing real climate change, like science based targets, like CDP, and so on. And so while some brands just talk the talk, Adidas has been doing. So I'm right now on Adidas Group / sustainability. And here's their game plan on sustainability. So you can see their commitments. We can actually go to their annual reports if we want and really dig into the numbers. But the main focus areas are nature, climate action, circularity, human rights, materials, supply chain, their own employees, workers in their supply chain, and communities. And they've done a whole bunch. They've been doing this forever. In 2024, they earned a CDP sustainabilities rating for the first time. I'm also going to go back up and just click on climate action, and we can see a little bit about it. They ensure transparency and accountability through the Science Based Target Initiative. They're talking about scope 1 and 2 emissions for a 2030 target. They're aiming for 70% greenhouse gas emission reduction against their 2022 baseline. If you've seen these videos before, I often talk about getting a baseline. So they have a baseline of 2022. Again, they have some key initiatives. So renewables is the no-brainer. Improving efficiency is another one. They also have their progress. We can see tons of CO2e for 2024 against scope 1 and 2. And then we can also see their key initiatives, which I talked about: renewables, material innovation, phasing out coal, driving improvements and innovation, and then other decarbonization levers. So not only are they telling us they're trying to reduce it, but they actually have initiatives in play to scenario down to what their goal is. They also talk about the progress with scope 3 emissions. Again, this is upstream and downstream from them. They have a path to 2030. And they talk a little bit about their ambitions to get there, carbon capture, key initiatives for reduction in scope 1, 2, and 3. But they do have a net zero ambition all the way out here past 2050, but they want to be minus 90% from 2022 baselines by 2050. So we can see a little bit more about it. But again, I mentioned they got a CDP rating A list for 2024, which I think is really great. And I love that they're working with SBTi as well. But they have some wins. So over 60% of their products now use sustainable materials. Nearly all new polyester is recycled because obviously they're a fashion company. So we got to talk about materials. Millions of plastic bottles have been turned into sneakers through their Parley for the Oceans collaboration. You can check more about it. I'll put it at the end of this video. They've launched fully recyclable shoes, and they create low carbon packaging options. Again, another thing for a company like Adidas is the packaging. There can be so much waste. So they're thinking about innovative strategies. What was their process? The first is they had sustainability milestones. They obviously weren't the best company in the world many years ago, but they started somewhere and they moved forward. So in 2020, they launched the Futurecraft Loop, which is a performance running shoe designed to be remade again and again. So think modularity. In 2022, they pledged to be climate neutral in operations by 2025, which is lofty if you've heard of sustainability goals before. In 2023, they launched Made to be Remade and take back programs, which we're seeing in the fashion industry. And 2025, they had a goal to use 90% low impact materials across all products. I talked about that a few minutes ago. The second thing is material innovation. So recycled ocean plastic via that Parley, which I talked about, bio-based materials and leather, lower impact dyes and finishes, which can really lower their impact on the environment, and then their packaging. They try to skip plastic entirely, which is net new for a company like them. So skipping plastics. And then finally, partnerships. They partner with Parley, the Oceans Better Cotton Initiative, Canopy, it's called, the Fashion Industry Charter for Climate Action. I talked about SBTi, I talked about CDP. Basically, and Adidas isn't going this alone. They want to make sure they're learning from the best, sharing knowledge with the best, and also aligning themselves with globally recognized frameworks and standards and certifications. Well, it wouldn't be a fair video if I didn't think of opportunities that I saw in their sustainability report and strategy that I think they could improve on year over year. So, even leaders have work to do. We're learning lots about what they're doing, but let's learn about what they're not doing that they could be doing. I think we need to talk about product end of life. It's still tricky. Take back programs are still in select countries. They're not available all over the place. Recycling gear into new products is still energy intensive and hard to scale. So, yeah, they're trying to take old products and make them new again, but just in that workings, there's already obviously going to be an environmental impact. It's going to be less, but there's a ways to go here. So, take back programs could be enhanced or improved. Two is transparency could be improved. So, not all emissions or supply chain data is available, is public, third party verified, etc. So, we're finding these with all of these big companies. They're putting pressure on their tier one and tier two suppliers. So, those suppliers are starting to disclose their own emissions, their own impact, but it's really hard to get verification on those suppliers. So, scope three, which is supplier emissions primarily, is a massive challenge for any brand, Adidas included. And number three is just fast fashion pressure. That fast fashion still exists. I mean, the reason they're a company is because they help athletes. They love sneakerheads. You know, they're trying to encourage people to use their product, buy their product, wear their product. And so even with better materials, mass production still has an impact. So, what's in it for you, or what can your business learn from this? If you're in business, big or small, here's what you can steal from Adidas, because we should steal the best ideas in sustainability. Number one is embed sustainability into the research and development of your team. Maybe you're making a product, but maybe it's just service related. Don't bolt it in, bake it in. Make sure that sustainability is kind of part of the roots of how your business operates. I'm not thinking you're going to do this by tomorrow, but take a step back, and as you plan longer term, have sustainability baked in. Two is partner up. There's lots of ideas in probably your industry today. So if you're in the trucking industry, or you're in manufacturing, or you're in service based, or you're in pharmaceuticals, there are probably other companies around the world already doing some initiatives that you could do too. So join initiatives that align with your values, join memberships, or even join standards, frameworks, certifications, regulations that speak to you, that are part of maybe your industry. Then test circularity if you manufacture a product. So could you start a take back program? Could you research one? What about refills? What about closed loop services in some way? Maybe you could offer a repair shop, or if somebody wants to sell something back to you or send something back to you that could be sold again, that's a good way to do it. And finally, communicate your progress. It's not perfection that's required, it's transparency. So if you can start reporting on a baseline year, some targets, some initiatives, share your goals and wins transparently, people respect the effort. Personal takeaway time. If you're not running a business, but you're still curious about Adidas and sustainability, you're still a huge part of this. Always choose quality over quantity when you're thinking shoes or anything for that matter. Recycle your gear or donate it when you're done. Don't just chuck it in the landfill if it could have a second life. Ask questions before buying, like, was this made sustainably? And also dig a little deeper. Tell me more about it. Are there certifications that are legitimate? Like, tell me more about this. Adidas initiatives, if you learned about any that were interesting to you, take them, change them to be more like your business, and then go for it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, wear your values and stay curious, and have a great week. Thanks again.